this cloth won't it become heated with the pimples. I'll just not touch it. Just leave it. Can you check if it's online? Please check if it's online. I think there should be a new link.
Yeah.
Reply now?
Yeah, this is now.
We'll have to share the link. Or should I do that? Sending it.
You can check it.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Yeah, I've shared it. Can you check?
Okay. It's okay. It's a new system. You see that
Yes.
the title also is new.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's like okay. Okay, so because of technical issues, we'll have to start again. Okay, and there's a small change in plan. Since it's already 8, we will not be able to do 15 and 16 together today. So we will do 15 today, 16 and 17 we'll try to push tomorrow. Or else we'll see how it goes. Because 16 and 17, I have to see how it's related. Or else 15 we'll do today, 16 we'll do tomorrow, and 17 and 18 we'll do together on Friday. Okay, so we'll try to wrap up these 4 mantras in this 3 days. So today we'll discuss mantra 15. Okay, and this is the prayer of Brahman to Yagyamurti after all the instructions have been. He's not instructing Yagyamurti specifically, but he is revealing the Lord to us in the sense that he is praying to the Lord, at the same time he is revealing the features of the Lord to his descendants. So this is Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasyapi Hitam Mukham Tattvam Pusham Apavanu Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by a dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. So this we already discussed, but still it's like a slap on the face of the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, because after discussing all this in the Upanishads about the absolute truth, Manu, Swayambhu Manu, is praying to the Lord to remove his dazzling effulgence. Normally it is thought that the absolute truth is impersonal. It's white light, it's bright light, and one should go and merge into that. That's the ultimate aspect of liberation. But it is not so. And this is specifically mentioned in this prayer. That's why this is one of the most important prayers for defeating the impersonalistic conception. So specifically mentioned here, Hiranmayena Patrena, the golden effulgence which is covering Satyasya Pihitam Mukham. Satyasya means the absolute truth, the supreme truth. Apihitam means covered. And what is covered? The face of the Lord is covered. So Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Pihitam Mukham. So Brahma Jyoti is actually covering some aspect of the absolute truth. Although impersonalists think that absolute truth means it's impersonal, but actually impersonal covering is covering the real feature of the absolute truth, which is his face, his beautiful face. Tattvam Pushan Apavarno. And who is that absolute truth? He is the one who maintains everybody, or who sustains everybody, who gives nourishment to everybody. That is Pushan. Apavarno, kindly remove Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye, so that his pure devotees can see him, which basically indicates that the absolute truth can be known in his full feature only by the pure devotees of the Lord, and not by voidists or impersonalists. That's why I said, O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, Pushan, your real face, Mukham, is covered by your dazzling effulgence, Satyasya Vetam Mukham. Kindly remove that covering, Apavarno, and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee. Satya dharmaya drishtaye. So these are the sections, these are the points in the purport. So, and yeah, I also mentioned that Srila Prabhupada's purport will cover these points. How the Bhagavan feature of the Lord is the absolute truth, is the full manifestation of the absolute truth. How he is the sustainer of or maintainer of both the material creation as well as spiritual creation, and how the Lord favors his pure devotees. Satya dharmaya drishtiya. Therefore, his mercy, although available to everybody, it's up to us to catch to that mercy. So those pure devotees can get the full mercy of the Lord, special favor of the Lord, but others cannot. These are the things which I discussed, the themes. Lord's personal days. Srila Prabhupada will speak about Brahmajyoti, how the Lord is the source of Brahmajyoti, and Shri Krishna is the full manifestation of the absolute truth, is Anandamaya Abhyasa. It's of bliss. And if you remember from the invocation, the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that Brahman realization is only the Sat feature of the Lord. Paramatma realization is Sat and Chit, and Bhagavan realization is Sat, Chit and Ananda. So that is the full realization of the Lord. So Swambhu Manu is praying to get that full realization of the Lord. Creation is managed by his plenary expansion, the Paramatma feature, and God realization is a great science. And this is mentioned here specifically because it's difficult to understand the Bhagavan aspect of the Lord. Okay, Brahman and Paramatma can be understood in a relatively simple way, but God realization or realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a great science. It requires a specific set of process. We have to surrender. That's the great science. Paramatma and Brahmajyoti has been discussed. Then what is perfect knowledge? Let's see that one by one in the purport. So Srila Prabhupada starts by quoting this, that Brahmajyoti, the dazzling effulgence of his personal form, is actually coming from the Lord himself. Brahmanohi pratishtaham amritasyavayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasyaikandikasya cha. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, right? Amrita, imperishable, avyayasya, eternal, shashvata, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness, right? Sukha. So Brahma Sukha, heard Mayavadi stage, Brahma Sukha. Brahma Sukha means the ultimate happiness, where there is no distress at all. So that Brahma Sukha actually comes from the Lord. Brahmanohi pratishtha aham. Says, Krishna says, aham. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is considered as that which is Sukha, which is Amrita, which is Avyaya, which is Shashvata, and which is the ultimate position of happiness that actually comes from me. So Krishna establishes that. Srila Prabhupada says, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are three aspects of the same absolute truth. Vadanti tattva sattvam vijnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavanati shantati. And we also discussed that these three aspects of the absolute truth are actually non-different. It is just based on the realization of the pursuer of the absolute truth, that the absolute truth manifests himself, or he reveals himself as Brahman. So Brahman is non-different from Krishna. Paramatma is also non-different from Krishna. And Bhagavan, obviously, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's just that the aspects of the absolute truth are understood or realized in these three different ways. So Brahman is the aspect most easily perceived by the beginner, because that's the point where one understands that everything is spirit. Everything is spirit. And I am different from spirit. The absolute truth is spiritual, and I am also spiritual. And that's where all the slogans come up. Tattvamasi, Soham, Aham Brahmasmi. Like this. So Aham Brahmasmi means that Brahman means great. And I am great. How am I great? I am great because I am also of the same quality as the Supreme Brahman. Not that I am quantitatively also I am the same, but quality wise I am same. So therefore that's most easily perceived. To understand that I am not this body, I am the spirit, I have nothing to do with this matter. That is Brahman realization. Very simple. Then Paramatma, the super soul, is realized by those who have further progressed, where they understand that Paramatma is controlling this material world. There is one person who is controlling this material world. So, Upadrishranabantacha Bharata Bhakta Maheshwara Paramatmeti Chapyukto Tehesmin Purusham Paraha. So this is the definition of Paramatma. And one who understands that he is the Upadrashta and Anumanta, and is the Bharta and Bhokta. So one who has that much amount of understanding, then he gets to the Paramatma realization of the Lord. So there is some understanding of the form of the Lord and some of his activities. And those activities are limited to this material creation. Bhagavan realization is the most difficult, it's the ultimate realization, because it speaks about the various potencies of the Lord. And those potencies are fully exhibited in the spiritual world. We discussed yesterday that 3/4 of the potencies of the Lord are exhibited in the spiritual world, whereas 1/4 of the potencies are only exhibited here. And Krishna also says, Ekamshena Sthito Jagat, by just by one amsha, I sustain and maintain this whole universe. That's the Paramatma feature of the Lord. Just by one amsha, he maintains that. But everything else, the vibhuti, the actual glory and magnificence of the Lord is manifested in the spiritual world. And because we do not have direct experience of that in this material realm now, therefore, it's inconceivable to us. And then it becomes very difficult because it requires surrender. It requires detachment from everything material. It requires perfect knowledge to be gained from a bona fide guru. It's very difficult to find in this material world. So all these things make understanding of Bhagavan as very difficult. But we also saw in last few mantras that how, and especially the references that Srila Prabhupada gave about how merciful Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, and he has given this process to us so that all of us, in fact every living entity in this material world, can progress towards the spiritual path. Not only human beings but also insects, birds, because anyone who comes in contact with the prasadam of the Lord or with Hare Krishna Mahamantra, just by hearing it, he makes tangible progress. So that way it's not only limited to human beings, because although human beings can perfectly understand this whole process of devotional service and then actually go back to Hare in the next life itself. But even for other living entities, they also have golden opportunity now, because if they hear to a pure devotee chanting or take prasadam of the Lord, then there are so many instances mentioned in the Shastra where they can also get uplifted. So this is the golden period. That's why this is called as the golden period, because this process is very easily available to us. So Bhagavan realization to us may seem, how is it so difficult? But actually it is so difficult. If you see from an eternal time point of view, this current point, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came only 500 years back, and this 10,000 golden years would remain where this preaching of Krishna consciousness will go on. But after that, it is Ghor Kali Yuga, and after that Satya Treta Dwapar also, such an easy process will not be available. Satya Yuga is meant for meditation, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 years. And then one can understand a little bit about the absolute truth. One can then understand that he has to go to the Bhagavan feature also, just to understand that there is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A Bhagavan feature is there, and he is full of potencies. And the actual potencies are manifested in the spiritual world. That itself will take such a long meditation, because surrender is required. So that Satya Yoga meditation, then Treta Yoga, you do this yajnas, Dwapar Yoga, deity worship, temple worship. So gradually, it will take lots of time. Therefore, it's very easily available to us now. So therefore, you might not be able to connect to how Bhagavan realization is the ultimate realization, or it is a very difficult realization. But one thing we can relate to is that if you go and tell Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead to anybody outside, then they will not be able to accept it. There will be so many protests, so many oppositions to that. So that itself suggests. But if you tell them that Supreme Lord, Supreme Truth is impersonal, then they'll be very happy with that, because they can keep continuing with their materialistic activities. So that way, Brahman Paramatma is somewhat acceptable to people. Bhagavan realization is not accepted, because Bhagavan realization means one must surrender. And surrender is the most difficult thing that people want to do, or people don't want to do. So this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna says that he is the ultimate concept of the absolute truth. Mattaf parataram nanyat. Therefore, Krishna is the source of the Brahma Jyoti as well as the all-pervading Paramatma. Later in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna further explains. So, see, this is speaking about Brahman from Bhagavad Gita 14:27. Now this text 10:42 is speaking about the Paramatma feature of the Lord. Atva bahunaitena kimgyatena tavarjana vishtabhyavidam krishnam ekamshena sthito jagat. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. Thus, by his one plenary expansion, the all-pervading Paramatma, the Lord maintains the complete material cosmic creation. So one who has this understanding and he pursues the absolute truth in this way, he comes to the Paramatma realization. So that way it's very easy. He also maintains all manifestation of the spiritual world. Therefore, this Shruti mantra of Śrī Īśopaniṣad, the Lord is addressed as Pushan, the ultimate maintainer. So as Paramatma, he maintains everybody in this material world. But in the spiritual world, because all of his associates or all the living entities are his devotees, so Bhagavan takes personal care of them. He does not manifest his Paramatma feature in the spiritual world. Paramatma feature is required only in this material world. Why is it so? You just saw the definition, right? Upadrishta anumantacha bharta bhokta maheshwara. So one who can witness the activities and one who can sanction the activities, which basically suggests that those activities and which are performed by the living entities, the Lord is actually not satisfied with them, because those activities are materialistic in nature. So he witnesses them so that he can give proper reactions to those conditioned living entities, and he sanctions them. Although he does not want living entities to do so, but still he sanctions them. So there is a detachment from the Lord also, because the living entity does not want to attach himself to the Supreme Lord. So Paramatma is a very neutral feature of the Lord. Just does these activities pertaining to the material world, just to fulfill the illicit desires of conditioned living entity. But in the spiritual world, there is no Paramatma feature, because everybody is a devotee of the Lord, everybody is connected to the Lord, everybody wants to serve Krishna. So Krishna takes personal interest in them, he takes personal care of them. And when pure devotees within this material world also, they are concerned only with Bhagavan feature of the Lord, then Paramatma is not directly involved with them. Then the Paramatma, because he is not different from Krishna, Krishna manifests within the heart. And that is why he says, Desha Inavakarpatam, Aham Ajnana Chantama, Nashena Vastu, Jnana Deepena Bhasmata. He says, I am the one who removes the ignorance of my devotees. So it's actually not the Paramatma feature anymore. The Paramatma feature then transforms into the Bhagavan feature of the Lord, the personality of Godhead. And he actually purifies those pure devotees, because they are concerned only with the Bhagavan feature of the Lord, not with the Paramatma feature. Okay, so the Lord manifests himself for the pure devotees, but he is neutral to those who are not surrendered unto him. So therefore there is no Paramatma feature in the spiritual world, only it is there in this material world. So when the Lord maintains, when it's mentioned Pushan, maintaining in both the material world as well as spiritual world, he maintains the material world as the Paramatma feature, and in the spiritual world he personally takes care of his devotees, because they serve him in his personal mood. The personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, is always filled with transcendental bliss, Anandamaya Abhyasa. When he was present at Vrindavan in India 5000 years ago, he always remained in transcendental bliss, even from the beginning of his childhood pastimes. Right? So this is the Bhagavan feature of the Lord, and Srila Prabhupada gives details of how the Bhagavan feature is the most relishable. And why? No, this also gives an indication why it's so difficult to understand. He was present in Vrindavan, he remained in transcendental bliss, even from the beginning of his childhood pastime. So this is speaking about his Anandamaya Abhyasa, the bliss feature of the Lord. Bhagavan feature is Sat, Chit plus Ananda also. And whatever pastime the Lord performs, it's always in his transcendental ecstasy. The killing of various demons such as Agha, Baka, Putana and Pralamba were but pleasure excursions for him. In his village of Vrindavan, he enjoyed himself with his mother, brother and friends. And when he played the role of a naughty butter thief, all his associates enjoyed celestial bliss by his stealing. The Lord's fame as a butter thief is not reproachable, for by stealing butter, the Lord gave pleasure to his pure devotees. Right? So he enjoyed himself and he gave pleasure to his pure devotees by his activities, fasting. So all are related with each other. The Lord wants to enjoy himself. The living entities want to experience that bliss also, and that happens when they come together and engage in fasting. So the most relishable activity happens in the spiritual world. Everything the Lord did in Vrindavan was for the pleasure of his associates there. The Lord created these pastimes to attract the dry speculators and acrobats, the so-called Hatha Yoga system, who wish to find the absolute truth. Of the childhood play between the Lord and his playmates, the cowherd boys, Shukdev Goswami says in Srimad Bhagavatam, Ittham satam brahma sukhanubhutya hasyam gatanam paradevatena maya shritana naradarakena sakam vichakru krita punya punjaha. The personality of God who is perceived as the impersonal, blissful Brahman, the Jnanis, Right? Itham satam Brahma sukhanubhutya. Right? The happiness of Brahman, sukhanubhuti, the experience of sukha, the Brahma sukha, that the impersonalist entered for. Who is worshipped by the Supreme Lord by devotees in the mode of servitorship. Dasyam gatana paradaivatena. As the Supreme Lord by dasya, in the mode of dasya, by the devotees. And who is considered an ordinary human being by mundane people. Maya Shritana Naradarakena. Right? Although he is paradaivatena, they consider him as Naradarakena, one who has come in the form of a mundane person. Who takes that Maya Shritana, one who has taken shelter of Maya. Maya Ashritana, Naradarakena, one who is completely illusioned. He thinks the Lord has come in the form of a mundane person. So, Sakam Vichapru Krita Punya Punya. But that Supreme Personality of God, who is perceived like this by different people, he played with the cowherd boys, attained their position after accumulating many pious activities. Okay. So, by these, when we speak about pious activities, it's not the karma kandi pious activities, but pure devotional service. By that pure devotional service, these cowherd boys become eligible to play with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is why it's difficult. Pure devotional service is difficult. Not difficult to perform, but difficult to accept. Difficult to accept for the conditioned soul. He does not want to do it. Nobody wants to give up his freedom. Nobody wants to give up his independence. But pure devotional service demands that. Sarva dharman parityaja, that demand is there. So then pure devotional service starts. So because of that demand, people are afraid. Because they are afraid, Bhagavan realization becomes very rare. And that's what Krishna says, Bhavanam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadati. Lots and lots of, rather billions and billions of lifetimes, Bhavanam Janmanamante Jnanavan Prapadati. One who is in knowledge, he surrenders all to me. Vasudeva Sarva, Bhavanam Janmanamante Jnanavan Prapadati. What is it? Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadati and Vasudeva Sarva Sarva. And then he also says, no, this thing that of so many people, Manusharam Sakseshu Kashit Episiddhai Atanama Pisiddhara Kashchan Vamveti Tatvataha. To understand Krishna, to know Krishna, it's a very rare achievement. This is the reason nobody wants to surrender. Thus, the Lord is always engaged in transcendental loving activities with his spiritual associates in the various relationships of Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. We'll discuss this in Nectar of Devotion, so we're not going into these details. Since it is said that Lord Krishna never leaves Vrindavan Dham, one may ask how he manages the affairs of the creation. This is answered in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord pervades the entire material creation by his plenary part known as the Paramatma or Super Soul. And that he maintains this material world. So because Krishna is the source, in one way we can say that Krishna is actually maintaining this material world. But how does he do that? Practically implementing that maintenance, he expands himself in his Paramatma feature and then he maintains. Although the Lord personally has nothing to do with material creation, maintenance and destruction, he causes all these things to be done by his plenary expansion, the Paramatma. So personally, Krishna does not have to do anything with this creation, maintenance and destruction. His personal feature is fully manifested in the spiritual world. This is Bhagavan feature, where he is engaged only in his pastimes. But for conducting this material world, he expands himself as Paramatma. And then he causes all these things to be done. System of God realization is a great science. Every living entity is known as Atma, soul, and the principal Atma who controls them all is Paramatma, super soul. There are two terms. This also Srila Prabhupada mentions that in his Bhagavad Gita purport, that because there are two terms, Atma and Paramatma, therefore there are two entities, Atma and Paramatma. Atma does not become Paramatma. This system of God realization is a great science. The materialistic Sankhya yogis can only analyze and meditate on the 24 factors of the material creation, for they have very little information of the Purusha, the Lord. So materialistic Sankhya yogis, basically they are the ones who take shelter of the impersonalism ultimately. And there is 24 factors of material creation, which is explained in Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam. There is 5 elements, gross elements, 3 subtle elements. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, this is 5. Mind, intelligence, pulse, ego, this is 3. Then you have 5 working senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, which is 10, which makes it to 18. And then what do we have? Then we have 5 sense objects, which takes it to 23. And then finally, the source of all is Mahatattva, which is the 24th element. Okay. Now we will not discuss all this here. And the impersonal transcendentalists are simply bewildered by the glaring effulgence of the Brahmajyoti. If one wants to see the absolute truth in full, one has to penetrate beyond the 24 material elements and the glaring effulgence as well. So one has to become, or one has to transcend the Sankhya Yoga process as well as the Jnana Yoga process. And then one can try to see the absolute truth in full. Śrī Īśopaniṣad points toward this direction, praying for the removal of the Hiranyamaya Patra, the dazzling covering of the Lord. Unless this covering is removed, so one can perceive the real face of the personality of Godhead. Factual realization of the absolute truth can never be achieved. And this dazzling covering cannot be removed by your own personality. One has to pray to the Lord. That's what Swami Guru is doing. One has to pray to the Lord. Just by praying to the Lord, only by praying to the Lord, actual realization of the absolute truth can be achieved. The Paramatma feature of the personality of Godhead is one of the 3 plenary expansions or Vishnu Tattvas, collectively known as the Purusha Avatars. So the Purusha Avatars are 3, which are there only for material creation. First Purusha Avatara is Mahavishnu or Karma-Dakshaya Vishnu. Okay, so he expands, and then from him the material creation is put into motion. Then he enters into each of the universes, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, that is the second Purusha Avatar. So Mahavishnu is the Paramatma for this whole material creation. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the Paramatma for that particular universe. And Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who expands from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he is the Paramatma for each and every living entity. So all 3 Purusha Avataras are called as Paramatma, but then they are for the totality. Mahavishnu is for the totality of the creation. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is for one universe. Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is for each and every living entity. He is the Vishnu among the 3 principal deities, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. And he is the all-pervading Paramatma, each and every individual living entity. And this is talking about Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. The second Vishnu Tattva within the universe is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the collective super soul of all living entities. So we discussed this yesterday, that the living entities, they take shelter of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu when this partial annihilation happens. All the living entities who at the end of Brahma's one day, they are disposed of in Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. They are there in Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So then he acts as the shelter of all the living entities together. So therefore he is called as Paramatma. One who has sheltered, who is protecting, or one who is given shelter to all the Atmas together. Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, he is the one who is sustaining each and every living entity. So therefore he is Paramatma for every living entity. And because Mahavishnu, who is above Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he gives shelter to the whole material creation and all the living entities, all the conditioned souls. Therefore, for all the conditioned souls, collectively, he is the Paramatma. Okay, so we have to understand these all the 3 features, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, are called Paramatma feature because they give shelter to the living entities, either collectively or individually. So collectively, as Mahavishnu, he is Paramatma. Within each universe, collectively, he is the Paramatma of this universe, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And then, as the shelter of every living entity, as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, he is Paramatma. So the yoga system teaches the serious student to meet the Vishnu Tattvas after going beyond the 24 material elements of the cosmic creation. This is the yoga system. The culture of empiric philosophy helps one realize the impersonal Brahmajyoti. This is Jnana Marg. By cultivating or by doing this Neti process, by discriminating. Jnana means what? Jnana means once one has an intelligence, it discriminates between what is matter and what is spirit. Okay. So that is the culture of empiric philosophy. With that, he determines what is matter and what is spirit. And by that, he just accepts that which is spiritual and rejects that which is material. So the culture of empiric philosophy helps one realize the impersonal Brahmajyoti, which is the glaring effulgence of the transcendental body of Lord Shri Krishna. That the Brahmajyoti is Krishna's effulgence is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 14:27, which we saw, Brahmanohi Pratishtaham, as well as the Brahma Samhita 5:40. यस्य प्रभाप्रवदो जगदण्डकोटि कूटेश विशेष वसदादि विभूति भिन्नं तद ब्रह्म निष्कलमनंत विशेषभूतं गोविन्दमादि पुरुषं तमहं भजामि. In the millions and billions of universes, there are innumerable planets, and each and every one of them is different from the others by its cosmic constitution. All of these planets are situated in a corner of the Brahma Jyoti. This Brahma Jyoti is but the personal effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, whom I worship. So this Brahma Jyoti is actually in this mantra, it's explained that Brahma Jyoti is the expansion, the personal expansion of the Lord. Correct? That is the bodily effulgence of the Lord. In the next mantra, Srila Prabhupada will explain that this Brahma Jyoti is actually emanating from Goloka Vrindavan. Just like sun rays are emanating from the sun globe, similarly, Brahma Jyoti is also emanating from the topmost spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavan. And this Brahma Jyoti is sustaining all the spiritual universes as well as the material universes. So it's like the whole creation, both the spiritual world as well as the material world, is enveloped by Brahma Jyoti. Okay, so all the Vaikuntha planets are also floating in Brahma Jyoti only. But when the material creation has to happen, then there is an appearance of cloud within that Brahma Jyoti. Just like by the sun rays, cloud is created. Correct? Sun is the cause of creation of clouds. Similarly, Brahma Jyoti, okay, in Brahma Jyoti, there is a creation of cloud. And this is the material cloud. And within that cloud is where the material creation happens. Okay, so it's a very insignificant portion of Brahma Jyoti. So because the cloud is there, therefore one cannot see the Brahma Jyoti directly. Or to speak about the supreme spiritual planets. One cannot perceive of them. This mantra from the Brahma Samhita is spoken from the platform of actual realization of the absolute truth. And the Shruti mantra of Śrī Īśopaniṣad under discussion confirms this mantra as a process of realization. Right? This mantra from the Brahma Samhita is spoken from the platform of actual realization of the absolute truth. Who is speaking this mantra? Lord Brahma is speaking. And when does he speak? He spoke after doing his tapasya at the start of creation, and the whole spiritual world was revealed to him. So Brahma saw the spiritual world, and then he explained the activities in the spiritual world. He explained the spiritual world. Chintamani, Prakarasana, Sukalpa Vriksha, Vedam Kodantamaramudalayataksham, like this. He explained the spiritual world in his Brahma Samhita prayers. So he was actually directly seeing the spiritual world. Therefore, it's from the platform of actual realization. And this mantra of Śrī Īśopaniṣad confirms that. The Īśopaniṣad mantra is a simple prayer to the Lord to remove the Brahma Jyoti so that one can see his real face. Yes. So Brahma Jyoti is explained in Mundakopanishad. Okay, in several mantras, 2.2.9 to 11. This is the translation for that. In the spiritual realm, beyond the material covering, is the unlimited Brahman effulgence, which is free from material contamination. Brahma Jyoti is not affected by anything material. That effulgent white light is understood by transcendentalists to be the light of all lights. In that realm, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity for illumination. Indeed, whatever illumination appears in the material world is only a reflection of that supreme illumination. That Brahman is in front and in back, in the north, south, east and west, and also overhead and below. In other words, that supreme Brahman effulgence spreads throughout both the material and spiritual skies. Okay. This is also one of the reasons why, Brahman cannot be expressed by words. Right? This is what the impersonalists say, or the Mayavadis say this way. That Brahman cannot be expressed by words. Because any illumination which is there in this material world, it will have a source. Correct? If sunlight is there, sun is the source. And at night, if you want to put a bulb, the bulb is the source for the light. And if you are using a candle or a lamp, then that is the source which illuminates everything. But the impersonalist is so stubborn that he does not want to acknowledge the source of this light. So therefore he says this light does not have any source. This light does not have any source, and therefore this is anirvachaniya. This is not expressible by any words. Because Brahmajyoti can be expressed by words if we say the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Brahmanohi Pratishtha. He is the sustainer of Brahmajyoti. He is the one whose bodily effulgence is Brahmajyoti. Like that it can be explained. Then it would make possible, it will make logical sense. But because they don't want to acknowledge the personality of the Lord, therefore Brahman becomes anirvachaniya. It cannot be explained. That's how they propagate their philosophy like this. Okay. You want to answer now? No, I am planning to do only one mantra. So we'll be finishing by 9:15 maybe. Okay. Right. So perfect knowledge means knowing Krishna as the root of this Brahman effulgence. This knowledge can be gained from such scriptures as Srimad Bhagavatam, which perfectly elaborates the science of Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the author, Śrīla Vyāsadeva, has established that one will describe the Supreme Truth as Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan according to one's realization of him. We discussed this. Śrīla Vyāsadeva never states that the Supreme Truth is a Jiva, an ordinary living entity. It cannot be found. The living entity should never be considered the all-powerful Supreme Truth. If he were the Supreme, he would not need to pray to the Lord to remove his dazzling cover, so that the living entity could see his real face. Right? If the Lord and the Jiva are same in all aspects, then why does he have to ask anybody to remove the effulgence from the face? Right? I don't have to see my face, I don't have to ask anybody to remove the effulgence. Right? I can go and see my face. So if I am the same as the Lord, I do not have to pray like this. But then because this prayer is there in the Upanishad, which proves that Atma or the living entity and the Supreme Lord are different. They are two different entities. The conclusion is that one who has no knowledge of the potencies of the Supreme Truth will realize the impersonal Brahman. Right? Now this is important. One who has no knowledge of the potencies of Supreme Truth will realize the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, when one realizes the material potencies of the Lord, but has little or no information of the spiritual potencies, he attains Paramatma realization. Thus, both Brahman and Paramatma realization of the Absolute Truth are partial realizations. However, when one realizes the Supreme Personality of God, Sri Krishna, in full potency after the removal of the Hiranyamaya Patra, one realizes Vasudeva Sarvamiti. So Lord Krishna with his full potencies, when he is realized, that is the perfect realization. Lord Shri Krishna, who is known as Vasudeva, is everything. Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. He is Bhagavan, the root, and Brahman and Paramatma are his branches. So in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a comparative analysis of the three types of transcendentalism. So till now, with respect to this mantra, it has been established that Bhagavan realization is the topmost realization, and it is prayed to the Lord that he removes his dazzling covering. So an analysis was presented by Srila Prabhupada between Brahman feature, Paramatma feature and Bhagavan feature, and how he is the maintainer of both the spiritual creation as well as the material creation. Now, Satya Dharmaya Drishtaya, right? That's the last line of this mantra. Means you please remove this dazzling effulgence so that the pure devotees can see your face. So Brahman realization is attained by the Jnana Yogis, by the process of transcendental knowledge. Those who are Sankhya Yogis, then they discuss only the 24 material elements. Gradually they might progress to Jnana Yoga. But if they remain there, they will not be able to understand anything of the Absolute. Then those who are the Yogis, the Yoga system, can realize the three features, the three Vishnu Tattvas, Kshirodaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu and Karanadaksha Vishnu, who all three, the Purusha avatars, are there within this material world. That is why Srila Prabhupada writes in the previous slide, right, that they can realize the material potencies of the Lord, means those potencies which are exhibited by the Lord for creation of this material world, by Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu and Kshirodaksha Vishnu. but they have no information of the spiritual potencies. So yogis cannot understand it. So to understand the absolute truth, what is the path, what is the process which one should take up? That is pure devotional service or bhakti yoga. So Srila Prabhupada gives that to the conclusion. He says, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a comparative analysis of the three types of transcendentalists: the worshippers of the impersonal Brahman, Jnanis, the worshippers of the Paramatma feature, the yogis, and the devotees of Lord Sri Krishna, the bhaktas. It is stated there that the Jnanis who have cultivated Vedic knowledge are better than ordinary fruitive workers, that the yogis are still greater than the Jnanis, and that among all yogis, those who constantly serve the Lord with all their energies are the topmost. In summary, a philosopher is better than a laboring man. These who are fruitive workers. A mystic is superior to a philosopher. Philosopher is a jnani, and a mystic means a yogi is superior to a philosopher. And of all the mystic yogis who follows bhakti yoga, constantly engaging in the service of the Lord is the highest. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yoma. With shraddha, with faith, one who does devotion service to me. Shraddhavan bhajate yoma samay yukta tamomata. He is fully connected to me. Samay yukta tamomata. Śrī Īśopaniṣad directs us toward this perfection. So, we are speaking about Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. How different processes can lead to Brahman, Paramatma. How Brahman and Paramatma is the partial feature of the absolute truth. How one should attain, one should endeavor for Bhagavan realization. And this is the ultimate goal of Śrī Īśopaniṣad. Swayambhu Manu, after explaining everything about the absolute truth, then he is saying, you please remove the dazzling effulgence so that I can understand your face. I can see your face. I can understand, I can see your personality. Okay, so this ends our discussion on the purport of mantra 15. So this is a summary. Okay. So Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the root, he is the source of Paramatma, and he is the source of Brahma Jyoti also. So these are the branches. Okay. Then when one has realization of the material potencies, but no or very little information about spiritual potencies, he understands Paramatma. When one has no knowledge of the potencies of the Supreme Truth, one then comes to Brahma realization. And one who realizes the full potency of the Lord and petitions the Lord to remove his dazzling effulgence, then one comes to the Bhagavan realization. With respect to Paramatma, then it's realized by those who have progressed further, it's mentioned. Means with respect to this, it's easily perceived by beginner. Brahma realization is easily perceived by beginner. It's a culture of empiric philosophy which helps one to realize the Brahman feature. All planets are situated in one corner of the Brahma Jyoti. And this mantra is a prayer to see the Lord's face by removing this Brahma Jyoti. And how it's explained in Mundakopanishad, that Brahman is free from material contamination. Brahma Jyoti is free from material contamination. There is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire or electricity. Illumination in the material world is just a reflection of Brahma Jyoti. Sun is actually reflecting Brahma Jyoti. So the effulgence that we see from the sun, it's a reflection of Brahma Jyoti. Shastra explains that. So by that, we can understand how Brahma Jyoti would be. So illumination in the material world is a reflection of Brahma Jyoti. It spreads throughout the material and spiritual skies. And it is there in front, back, north, south, east, west, upward and downward. Means it's everywhere, sustaining both the material as well as spiritual planets. Paramatma is realized by those who have progressed further than Brahman realization. And the Paramatma maintains complete material cosmic creation. He manages the affairs of this material creation. He pervades the entire material creation. And he is the principal Atma who controls all the other. He is one of the three planetary expansions of the Lord. Okay. And he is Kshirodaksha Vishnu. He is the Vishnu among Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. Second Vishnu Tattva is Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And the creator of all universes, Karmadaksha Vishnu or Vishnu. Then Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, is the absolute ultimate realization of the absolute truth. He maintains all manifestations in the spiritual world. He is filled with transcendental bliss, Anandamaya Abhyasa. And Bhagavan exhibits his activities by killing various demons, which are his pleasure excursions. And all his activities which are mentioned are for his transcendental pleasure and the transcendental pleasure of his devotees. Enjoyed with associates as butter thief, but such activities are not reproachable. Created pastimes to attract prize speculators and acrobats. Childhood play with playmates is explained in Śrīmad Bhagavatam. He engaged in transcendental loving activities in all the 5 races, Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. He never leaves Vrindavan Dham. He has personally nothing to do with material creation, but causes all material things to be done by the Paramatma. He is the ultimate maintainer, Bhagavan. And perfect knowledge is to understand or know Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of God, as the root of Brahman effulgence. This knowledge is gained from Śrīmad Bhagavatam, and Śrīmad Bhagavatam, which is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, he never mentions or never states that the Supreme Truth is a Jiva. If that is so, if we think the Supreme Truth is Jiva, then there is no need to pray to remove the dazzling effulgence. Right? So, the system of God revelation is a great science. Sankhya Yogis, they analyze and meditate on the 24 factors of creation. The impersonal transcendentalists, they are bewildered by the glare of Jyoti. They think that's absolute. And there are those devotees who request or petition the Lord to remove the Hiranmaya Patra, the glaring effulgence. They are the ones who actually realize the absolute truth. So comparatively speaking, a Jnani is better than a fruity worker, a Yogi is better than a Jnani, and devotees are better than the yogis. Okay, so just see some references. We don't have many, but with respect to the explanation of Brahman, Srila Prabhupada, or the most prominent example that Srila Prabhupada uses is that of the sun. Okay, because it very clearly explains the absolute truth. It gives a very good reference point. It's called as Chandra Shakha Nyaya. Chandra Shakha Nyaya basically means that when we have to point out, if a child asks his mother, where is the moon? Then what the mother does is that she shows the branches of a tree through which the moon can be seen. So it basically means that because the child is small, he has to see through the branches. So the mother points out the branches of the tree. And it says, you see between these two branches, you see a white orb, globe. That is the moon. So that way a reference point is given to the child first, and with that he can understand what the moon is. Similarly, when Srila Prabhupada gives lots of analogies, it is on the basis of this Chandra Shakha Nyaya. He tells the Shakha, he gives the analogy first, and then he explains similarly, the Supreme Absolute Truth should be understood like this. So for understanding the Absolute Truth, the Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan feature, Srila Prabhupada primarily gives the example of the sun. So we'll see some of the references here, why it's very pertinent. So this is from one lecture to Śrīmad Bhagavatam, which Srila Prabhupada gave in 1972 in London. He says, who is this cause? Just like here in the material world, we find the sun is most powerful. Sun is the most powerful. Then if you go on researching, and what is next to the sun? We see the sun globe. But we don't see the sun god. But there is sun god. So if we can penetrate into the sun globe, then we can find there is sun god. He is the cause of the sun globe. So sun globe is the cause of the sunshine. Okay. So now how does it relate to us? So I told you, right, or we discussed that the Lord is mentioned as the one who is emanating. Yasya Prabha Pravato Jagadanda Koti. He is the one who is, the Brahmajyoti effulgence is coming from his body. Correct? And it's also mentioned in the next mantra that Goloka Vrindavan is the source of Brahmajyoti. So how we should understand? We have to go back to the source. In the sense, just like sunshine is coming from the sun globe, and the sun globe has sun god also. And sun god is the cause of sun globe, and sun globe is the cause of sunshine. So in one way, sunshine also comes from sun god only, sun globe also comes from sun god only, from Surya Devi. So that way, Brahman or sunshine is from sun god, and sun globe is also from sun god. So Goloka Vrindavan can be called as a source of Brahmajyoti. At the same time, the Lord, because he is the source, from him only this creation has come up, or he is the sustainer of both the spiritual planets as well as the material planets. So being the sustainer, he can be called as the cause or as the root of the spiritual planet also. So that way he is also the source of Jyoti. Right? Similarly, Brahma Jyoti, Brahman effulgence is the effect of the effulgence from the Goloka Vrindavan planet, Brahma Jyoti. And within this Brahma Jyoti, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, Brahmeti. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord says, Brahmano Aham Pratishtha. This Brahma Jyoti effulgence, just like the sunshine is resting on the sun globe, sunshine is not so important as the sun globe because from there the sunshine is coming out. Although the sunshine is universally spread, still it is less important than the sun globe. Similarly, Brahman effulgence is unlimited, still it is less important than the Goloka Vrindavan. Actually, only one Krishna. Krishna is one, and from him, these rays, Krishna's bodily rays, Brahma Jyoti. That is also explained in Brahma Samhita. Yasya Prabha. Prabha means rays or effulgence. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadandakoti. Jagadandakoti, where from all these universes are coming, after the effulgence, bodily effulgence of Krishna is expanded, then so many planets and universes are generated. Yasya Kanishvasita Kalamathalam. Right? So, when we say Brahman is creating or creation comes from Brahman. There are statements in the Vedas that creation comes from Brahman. So how do we understand? We have to go back to the source. Yesterday also we discussed this, that if you see the cause of all causes, Krishna being the cause of all causes, how do we understand? We keep on, okay, this is the cause, what is the cause of this? What is the cause of this? What is the cause of this? And you go back to the ultimate cause, you will find only Krishna. He is the cause of all causes. So similarly, when it is mentioned that Brahman is the cause of creation of this material world, we have to understand what is the cause of this Brahman. Yes, Brahman is the cause of creation, but then the cause of creation of Brahman also, which is from the spiritual planets or from the bodily effulgence of the Lord. So therefore, the Lord is the cause of all causes. So creation comes from him. There is a process, but the creation actually, the root cause of all causes is Krishna only. That's why Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport that Bhagavan is the root and Brahman and Paramatma are just branches. And without the root, there cannot be branches. Correct? In a tree grows into branches and trunks because the root is fixed. The root is proper. The root is being nourished. Just by watering the branches, the root will not sustain. It's like that. So Bhagavan, feature of the Lord, is the root. He is the one who is expanding all the universes. He is the one who is creating all the universes in the sense that he is the root cause of all causes. But immediately, if you see in between, then Brahman seems to be the cause. That's why it's told, no, impersonalists reach only till Brahman, but they do not go beyond that. So to one extent, understanding Brahman as the cause of everything, what we experience here, it's not wrong, it's correct. But then one has to go beyond that also to understand the absolute truth in its completeness, in its fullness. In Brahman, we do not understand any potencies of the Lord. But when we go to the Paramatma feature and Bhagavan feature of the Lord, then his full potencies are understood. Therefore, one should endeavor. Understanding or realization of the absolute truth means realizing the Bhagavan feature of the Lord. Outside of Vaikuntha, the abode of Krishna, which is called Paravyoma, or the transcendental sky, is the glaring effulgence of Krishna's bodily rays. This is called the Brahma Jyoti. The transcendental region of that effulgence is called Siddhaloka, Brahmaloka. When impersonalists achieve liberation, they merge into that Brahmaloka effulgence. This transcendental region is undoubtedly spiritual, but it contains no manifestations of spiritual activities or variegatedness. It is compared to the glow of the sun. Right? No manifestation of spiritual activities or variegatedness because there is no potency which is manifested there. It's just Jyoti. So, this is from lecture to Chaitanya Charitamrita. The whole material creation is resting on the heat and light of the sun. That's a fact. Similarly, the sun is only reflection, just like moon is a reflection of the sunlight. Similarly, the sun is also a reflection of the Brahma Jyoti. And what is that Brahma Jyoti? Brahma Jyoti is the bodily rays, effulgent rays of Krishna. You have seen Krishna's head is always aura. Basically means when he's depicted in his photos, there's always a circle behind Krishna's head in the old paintings. He's depicted like that. Or else there's an effulgence that is coming from his body. Krishna is always depicted like that. According to Shastra. One cannot paint Krishna according to his imagination. It's imaginary Krishna or fabricated Krishna. But when Krishna is presented according to Shastra descriptions, then he's always presented with an aura, or which is in a traditional way, depicted by a circle behind his back. So that rays is, I mean to say, distributing different energies. Parasa Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate. That energies or multi-energies are coming out. Just like from sunlight, so many things are emanating. Yes, so many energies are coming out. All colors, everything, all material existence due to the sunlight. Similarly, the whole creation, whole material spiritual creation that is resting on the rays emanating from the bodily effulgence of Krishna. That is stated in the Srimad Brahma Samhita. Yasya Prabha Prabhato Jagati. Then Brahmajyoti comes from the Golokundana planet. Yeah. In the spiritual world, all the Vaikuntha planets, they are shining. And because of them shining, the whole nature there is shining. That is called Brahmajyoti. The Vaikuntha planets are self-illuminating, and the rays of the Vaikuntha planets are called Brahmajyoti. It is spread unlimitedly, and material world is just a covered portion of an insignificant part of the same Brahmajyoti. This covering is temporary, and therefore it is a sort of illusion. See, the demons and impersonalists are awarded the facility of merging in Brahmajyoti. So demons and impersonalists are on the same level in the Brahmajyoti effulgence of the Lord, whereas the devotees are admitted into the spiritual planets. For comparison, one can just imagine the difference between floating in space and residing in one of the planets in the sky. The pleasure of the living entities on the planets is greater than that of those who have no body and who merge with the molecule of the sun's rays. The impersonalists, therefore, are no more favored than the enemies of the Lord. Rather, they are both on the same level of spiritual salvation. That's why impersonalists are also called as demons, because of the tendency to negate the form of the Lord, but also because there is the same destination as the demons. He reciprocates just as it behoves with his different types of admirers and devotees. Of course, the pure devotees are of one type only because they have no other object for service but the Lord. And therefore, the Lord also reciprocates with such pure devotees just as it behooves. Namely, he is always attentive to all the matters of his pure devotees. Thus, there are others who designate him as impersonal, and so the Lord does not take any personal interest in them. No personal interest. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. The impersonalists who do not accept the transcendental form of Lord Shri Krishna and the demons who are always engaged in blaspheming and fighting with him are punished by being merged into the Brahman effulgence. But that does not happen to the person engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. So, merging with the spiritual rays of the Lord is a punishment because there is no activity. A pure devotee does not like even to hear about Sayujya Mukti, which inspires him with fear and hatred. Indeed, the pure devotee would rather go to hell than merge into the effulgence of the Lord. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has sung Kaivalyam Narakayate. The impersonalistic conception of becoming one with the effulgence of the Lord is exactly like hell. Therefore, of the 5 types of liberation, the first 4 are not so undesirable because they can be avenues of service to the Lord. Salokya means to be on the same planet of the Lord. Samipya means to be near to the Lord. Sarupya have the same transcendental form as the Lord. And Sarshti means the same opulence, having the same opulence as the Lord. Whereas Sayujya means to unite with the impersonal Brahman rays of the Lord, which is like hell. Nonetheless, a pure devotee of Lord Krishna rejects even these types of liberation. He aspires only to serve Krishna birth after birth. He is not very interested in stopping the repetition of birth, for he simply desires to serve the Lord even in hellish circumstances. This is a very high level of devotion, where one does not mind repeated birth and death within this material world, but desires only pure devotional service to the Lord. Does not matter wherever he stays. Consequently, the pure devotee hates and fears Sayujya Mukti, merging into the effulgence of the Lord, because there is no service. This merging is due to an offense committed against the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and therefore it is not at all desirable for a pure devotee. Gentle devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead know perfectly well who is God and who is not. Non-devotee impersonalists, however, who have no idea about God is and who never offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead are always interested in accepting a human being as God and offering such prayers to him. Demons manufacture their own gods, or a demon himself claims to be God. Both are demons. Okay, I think this is the final. Yeah, that's one. So the demons and the impersonalists do not care for Krishna, but Krishna is so kind that he gives this liberation even to his enemies and to the impersonalists. There is the following statement in this connection. O Murari Krishna. How wonderful it is that although the demons, who are always envious of the demigods, have failed to penetrate your military phalanx, they have penetrated the region of Mitra, the sun globe. The word Mitra is used metaphorically. Mitra means sun globe, and Mitra also means friend. The demons who opposed Krishna as enemies wanted to penetrate his military phalanx, but instead of doing this, they died in battle, and the result was that they penetrated the planet Mitra, or the sun planet. In other words, they entered into Brahman effulgence. So this is one letter to Balimadhan. God has always been a vague idea. God has always been a vague idea. Nobody knows who he is. Or rather, they will not say nobody, but apart from pure devotees, nobody knows who God is. It's a vague idea. So most people are impersonalists or voidists. Perhaps for the first time in the world, they are giving the people a clear idea of what is God. Although God or Krishna was existing in the world, but demons like Kamsa wanted to kill him. Therefore, people have no clear idea. So this is the first time they are placing Krishna in tangible form with a clear idea of his name, fame, qualities, pastimes, etc. So that's why for us, understanding Krishna or understanding or having the Bhagavan realization is quite simple by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, God has always been a vague idea. It will remain to be a vague idea in this material creation because it's inconceivable. Okay, so I'll stop here. So if you have any questions, we can discuss. And we will see how mantra 16, 17, 18 will cover in the next 2 days. Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
How they accept that, how they realize that effulgence means sun rays or sunlight, how they...
Okay, so the question is that Mayavadis and impersonalists, they realize the Brahma Jyoti, but then what actually is that realization? What do they realize? So, see, one thing is Mayavadis do not, when we speak about impersonalists and Mayavadis, we use the term interchangeably, but we refer only to that person who does not believe in the transcendental form of the Lord, but who does not know there is a transcendental form of the Lord. So impersonalists we are also addressing as Mayavadis only. So they are actually Mayavadis. Mayavadis do not get liberated because of their offense to the Lord. They do not get liberated. So they remain within this material world itself. And those who are not offensive, those impersonalists who do not have knowledge about the Lord's form, but then those who are not offensive to the Lord, the Lord's form, they they see everything as Brahman. Everything as Brahman means they see everything as spiritual. Everything as spiritual means when we understand, their vision itself is like that. A normal condition living in his vision is what? When he sees something, he sees that as a object of his own enjoyment. Correct? And how does a devotee see? A pure devotee sees everything as a perfect opportunity to engage that particular object in the Lord's service. Okay. So this is the two ends, we can say. One is of a complete materialist who sees everything as his object of sense enjoyment. So he is doomed. He is going to the darker region and he rotates in this material world. Those who are pure devotees of the Lord, because they see everything in connection with Bhagavan, they can use this particular thing as a service to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they transcend this material world and go to the spiritual planets by engaging everything in the service of the Lord, by pure devotional service. The impersonalists are in the middle, kind of in between. And we are speaking about impersonalists, the Brahmavadis, not the Mayavadis. So their vision is that everything is connected or everything is related to the spiritual Brahma Jyoti. So even the matter that I am seeing there, whatever they see the cause is Brahman. Therefore, I should not entangle myself with anything which is here. Each and every aspect. So I should not do anything for my own sense enjoyment or anything that's related to this body. I should not perform any activities which are related to this body. I should concern myself only in cultivating knowledge and ultimately give up this life so that I can go and attain Brahman. So at this point of time, when they are, see, I do not actually know how they perceive because we don't see persons. And even in our history, we discussed this, right? We know of only Shukdev Goswami and 4 Kumaras as proper Brahmavadis, as impersonalists. And they also became devotees of the Lord. Mayavadis don't become devotees of the Lord because when they see the form of the Lord, they say it's Maya. But when the Kumaras, they heard or they smelled or they saw the form of the Lord, and they smelled the lotus tulsi, that's all, they became devotees. Shukdev Goswami, when he heard the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, he became a devotee. Yeah. For pastimes sake, obviously. So, they are the impersonalists. But Mayavadis, even when they are shown the form of the Lord, when they speak or when, not speak, but when they hear about the glories of the Lord, they do not have a transformation of heart just like Shukdev Goswami had. They think it is Maya. The glories of the Lord is Maya. The form of the Lord is Maya. The name of the Lord is Maya. Pastimes of the Lord is Maya. So therefore, because they are taking all these aspects of the Absolute Truth as Maya, they remain in Maya. Therefore, they are called Mayavadis. So they do not get liberated at all. They are the demons. So the only way they get liberated, these Mayavadis, when they are personally killed by the Lord, then they go and merge into this Brahmajyoti effulgence. And impersonalists are those who are very rare. The impersonalists, if they have cultivated this jnana process according to Vedic culture, according to Vedic knowledge, according to the Vedas, they have cultivated this jnana process, this neti process, seeing everything only as Brahman, everything as spirit, and everything is connected to Brahman because everything has come from Brahman. When they have vision like this, and that way they can elevate themselves either gradually through each of these planets and finally become liberated, or once they leave their body, because they do not have any information about the form of the Lord, they can go and merge into this impersonal Brahmajyoti. So when they merge, they will not have a spiritual body. Okay, they are just like the sun rays have the small particles. Similarly, the spiritual form, the eternal constant position as a servant of Krishna will not be manifested, although they are in the spiritual atmosphere. It will be still a chit kana only. It will be a small particle. They'll remain as a small particle and they'll have no activity there. No activity, but all the desire is inherent in the living entity to engage in activities, but they cannot engage in any activities because there is no variegatedness. There is no variegatedness, there is nothing, no object, no spiritual object, no material object, nothing is there. So they remain there for a very long time in comparison to this material world, but because they are not eligible to go to the spiritual world, they again come back to this material world and engage in materialistic activities. If by chance they meet a pure devotee on the way when they are going to impersonal Brahmajyoti, or in impersonal Brahmajyoti itself, if they see a pure devotee who is going to Vaikuntha, then by his association they might get elevated to the spiritual world. But then I am not aware of any instances of these things in Shastra. It is limited, but that's how it is. They have to cultivate this jnana process, see everything as Brahman. They say Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, actually it's a Mayavadi phrase, but Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi means that I am Brahman. So my nature is Brahman, why should I engage in anything which is pertaining to this particular body? I will not do anything. So they are called impersonalists. But when Srila Prabhupada is specifically writing about impersonalists, primarily he means only this Mayavadis. Those are the impersonalists who do not consider the form of the Lord. When they do not consider the personal form of the Lord, therefore they are impersonal. They worship only the impersonal aspect. Therefore they are Mayavadis. They are offensive to the personal. Okay. Yes.
Prabhupada is saying forward this Brahma realization is easy,
Yes.
but not necessarily in Bhagavad Gita. Brahma realization is difficult.
Yes.
This so he does this.
Yes. How do you understand? Yes. So okay. Yes. So in this mantra, Srila Prabhupada writes that Brahman realization is a preliminary realization and it's easy. Whereas in Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter, Krishna says, Krishvodikatarastesham abhyaktasatachedasam avyaktahi katir dukham dehamadhyam. So Brahman realization is easy in the sense that, or rather, we will the other way around. Bhagavan realization is easy in the sense that we just have to accept that he is the absolute truth. First mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the different Shastras, and I have to surrender unto him. So that way it's easy. Whereas for Brahman realization, one has to endeavor hard. One has to undergo this jnana process. One has to be completely detached from anything material. So that way, Brahman realization is difficult to attain. But what is that Brahman realization? For one who understands the absolute truth completely, Brahman realization is not difficult. In the sense that pure devotees or those who are engaged in devotional service, for them Brahman realization and Paramatma realization is already achieved. So we are all actually Brahman realized in the proper definition that Srila Prabhupada gives. Because whatever we see that in connection to, or actually we are supposed to see that in connection to Krishna. Okay, we are supposed to see that in connection to Krishna. So, supposed to see. We are to see. Our vision is still corrupted. We are supposed to see like this. So, so one who sees, a devotee who sees everything in relation to Krishna is Brahman realized, definitely. Actually, is Bhagavan realized. So, Bhagavan realization contains both Brahman as well as Paramatma. So, in that sense, Brahman realization is very easy to attain. We spoke, right? Brahman realization means that I am not this body, I am spirit. And if our understanding is that, then Brahman realization is very easily achieved. But Brahman realization becomes difficult when a person is materially conditioned. Then he has to undergo this whole jnana process. Okay, then Brahman realization becomes difficult. For one who has perfect knowledge, for him Brahman realization is not difficult. In the sense that because his process is mixed, or he understands the ultimate process of devotional service, that way Brahman realization and Paramatma realization becomes very easy for him. And Brahman realization is simple, or proper Brahman realization is that absolute truth has three aspects: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Okay. In that, if we understand that absolute truth has these three phases: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, then Brahman realization is easy. When one says that Brahman is the absolute truth, Paramatma feature and Bhagavan feature is Maya, then it becomes difficult for that person, because he is injected with that offense of thinking that Paramatma and Bhagavan are illusory representations of Brahman. Then Brahma realization becomes difficult to attain. Then he has to undergo all the jnana process, neti process, this and that. Otherwise, one who has complete understanding of absolute truth, Brahma realization is easy to attain. So this is the difference, this distinction. A bit difficult to understand. Anyway, when we come to this 12th chapter, Srila Prabhupada will speak that, we'll see that purport, and then we'll be able to relate easily. We don't have that.
This 14, Bhagavad Gita 14 Sloka 27.
Yes.
How they distinguish this sloka? Do you have any?
How they twist this
How they twist
shloka?
this sloka?
Paramanohi Pratishtha.
Shankaracharya.
I don't know how they do that. Difficult.
It's clear.
It's very clear. Paramanohi Pratishtha. They will have some way of doing it. They will not. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how they do that, but they will take another verse where the personality of Godhead is not very specifically mentioned, and say based on this verse is more important than this verse, so therefore we should understand it in this way. And then those people who are reading or studying, they would not know Bhagavad Gita. That's why they are reading that particular book. They say, okay, because this person is an authority, he knows Bhagavad Gita properly. And because he's saying like this, therefore we should understand it like this. So word jugglery means the mantras, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, all the verses of Vedic literature should be taken with direct meaning. But indirectly you can twist anything. Okay, because this particular in Bhagavad Gita, this is the chapter and this is the most important shloka. And therefore this shloka should be the reason. And you see, there are this impersonalists and Mayavadis. They will quote from Bhagavad Gita, but all of the shlokas will always be pointing out to the impersonal aspect. I'm not able to remember any verse like this, but I have seen. When they quote, they will never quote this Manmanam. They will never quote the Saradhanam Parityaja. And even if they quote Saradhanam Parityaja, they will say Mamekam means me as well as everybody else. And Mamekam also means that the unborn within. Manmarabhatanto, me means unborn within. So because there, we have already explained, it's unborn. You have to sign on to that unborn within. Therefore, when it says aham here, you also have to consider that. Just for our understanding, it says Brahman comes from Brahman. Brahman does not have a source. So when it says Brahmanam hi pratishtaham, then aham, because it refers to the unborn within Krishna, who is just an instrument who is speaking. Therefore, Brahman's source is Brahman only. So there is no cause for Brahman. We don't want to become Mayavadis here. You can speculate like this. Okay. Anything else? Yes, from exam point of view, which shloka is important? Invocation, mantra 1, 2, and 15. This is most important because it's a Mayavadi defeating us. Then 1 and 2. Om Purnamada Purnamidam, then Ishavasidam Sarvam, Purvanime Karmani. These three plus the Śrī Īśopaniṣad Mantra. Okay, so again, just a reminder that please submit your letter of instruction essays by today. Or else, I don't know, I think we might not be able to continue with Bhakti Shastra. We might not be able to continue. Okay, so stop. Prabhupada ki.